Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wayne Moorhead, filled with timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways from your direct selling executive peers to help fuel the growth and evolution of your business. So, how does one accidentally fall into a leadership role spanning 2 decades in the direct selling industry? Just ask Gene Tips, CEO of Plexus Worldwide, who shared his unlikely journey and lessons learned in a recent interview on the latest episode. His extensive expertise and international perspective have profoundly influenced his leadership style, fostering resourcefulness and keen ability to challenge the status quo. From navigating international operations to a poignant call for industry unity, Gene offers a wealth of knowledge and insights that are poised to resonate profoundly with aspiring and current direct selling leaders. But before we begin, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, WorldPay. WorldPay is an industry-leading payments technology and solutions company with unique capabilities to power omni-commerce across the globe. WorldPay processing solutions allow businesses of all sizes to take, make, and manage payments in person and online from anywhere in the world. Annually, they process over 40 billion transactions across 146 countries and 135 currencies. WorldPay helps customers become more efficient, more secure, and more successful. To learn more, visit worldpay.com. Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorhead, and his guest, Gene Tips.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorhead, and today's guest has had an inspiring 25-year plus career in direct selling, where he's held leadership roles in brands from startups to multi-million-dollar companies. Currently, he's responsible for strategic oversight in all areas of company operation. I'm excited to welcome Gene Tips, CEO of Plexus. Gene, thank you so much for being on Direct Approach.
Hey, Wayne, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, as I mentioned, you've had a great long career, been at some really well-known companies. Can you just take a couple minutes to share a little bit about the path that led you into direct selling?
You know, I probably got into, number one, I got into the industry by accident. It wasn't on purpose. And my story probably is a little bit different for the fact that I actually didn't start in the industry here in the US. I actually started in Brisbane, Australia, and just had gotten married, newly married, a couple weeks, needed a job, obviously, young. My wife had known a distributor of this particular company, and they were hiring. And I didn't know anything about network marketing. And I went in and interviewed and right away clicked with the general manager that was there. And away we went. And I'm going to date myself just a little bit here. So this was back in the day when we'd leave on a Friday night and we'd have 4 fax machines and we'd fill each fax machine with paper. We'd come in Monday and all the fax machines are empty. All the new paper applications coming in. We had to process all those applications. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth in the industry. You know, going from there, it's taken me all over the world. It's given me so many opportunities. It's blessed me and my family's life tremendously. Somehow got a random email from a recruiter, and that went from the random email to talking to the junior recruiter, to the senior recruiter, to the partner, to sitting in front of Tarl Robinson and Alec Clark at Plexus. And it was a whirlwind day. I came down from Salt Lake to interview with pretty much the entire C-suite. And I left just thinking, there's just no way that this is possible, that what they're saying represents who they are and what they're about. Because I'd seen a lot, right, in my career at that point. And anyways, long story short, everything they ever said was 1,000% accurate. And I came in as chief operating officer. 6.5 years ago, I was promoted to president of operations, and back in October 2022, CEO. So yeah, here I am.
That is such an incredible journey. And I know that starting international went a long way into, I think, shaping your skill set, your leadership style. Many other companies, someone might go in for 2 years or something like that. They'll have a pretty short stint internationally, just as part of kind of leadership development, and then, you know, stay at the home office. But that international perspective is incredible to have. It's something that a lot of us don't get. And it makes you, I found, way more resourceful, where you don't have all of the support and all of the resources sitting there at home office, but you really just have to figure it out and kind of make it work. And so I know that that's incredible. And I also have been at companies where private equities come in, also with public companies, and that definitely adds a very interesting dynamic. But also, Very jealous that you got the chance and get the chance to work with Tarl and Alec, both incredible people. I've learned a lot from them, known them for years. So you're at a pretty amazing place.
Oh, I 1,000% agree with you, Wayne.
So you took on the CEO role almost 2 years ago now, after being president of global operations and COO, where you were already leading and responsible for significant portions of the business. I'm curious, as you transition to the CEO seat, how did you approach this transition? What were some of the keys that made it a successful transition?
Oh, great question. The first 6 months was really trying to figure out which way was up. What I mean by that is obviously new role, new CEO, and you only know what you know when you're in an organization for a period of time and really, only a steward over a portion of the business, right? And now sit in the seat and you look at it holistically. And from the very beginning, the leaders were super supportive. It wasn't like this really rough transition. And for the first, I would say 3 to 4 months, I just wanted to listen. I just wanted to understand, the stories from our leaders, what their challenges were. I just wanted to understand who our people were and just really relationship build. Did the same thing on the inside of the building, right? Just asking questions and challenging the status quo, right? The company had been around for 15 years and, you get kind of these muscle memories and people are always, hey, well, that's just how we've always done it. That's great, but in order for us to get to where we want to go, we have to continue to innovate, right, in all areas. And so, that was really my approach for the first, 4 to 6 months, is just seek to understand and really try to figure out, with some of the challenges that the business has, what are the root cause, as opposed to always addressing the symptoms, if that makes sense. So it was challenging. Still remains challenging, but we're having fun now. Every day. Every day's different. You know that in this industry, right? Things come at you from all angles. But we've got a great team that we formed and been through a lot of change, and we're heading down the path.
I think it speaks a lot to your leadership style and your approach, that you started out from listening, seeking to understand. And when I come into roles, that's something I try to do as well. And it's a very active experience. It's not passive. It's not sitting back and listening, but it's really digging in, rolling up your sleeves, understanding what's going on internally, externally with the distributors' need, wants, and desires. And I think it's also really interesting that you came in with the mindset to kind of challenge the status quo as well. So you got to build on the great foundation that's there, but also look for opportunities to bring the organization forward. I'm curious, as you did that and you kind of moved into, the top of the organization and owning all responsibility, I'm curious, what was one of the biggest shifts you had to make as a leader?
Really just in my decision making, ensuring that I was looking at it through any decisions that were being made, that I was looking at it through the lens of the greater good or the whole of the organization, right? Not just the areas that I had been responsible for in the past, but really looking through the lens of, is it in the best interest of our ambassadors? And is it in the best interest of our customer? And is it the best interest of our employees? And so really shifting through that lens and just, that was what really helped when I went through the period of just seeking to understand, to ensure that, decisions that were being made, there's always the downstream ripple effects, right? Sometimes they're small and sometimes they're big. And sometimes you have what I like to call unintentional consequences. And so just want to make sure that, just being a really good steward over the organization.
Did you ever find it difficult to kind of let go of some of the responsibilities that you had previously been over and, empower those people? I know that that's been a challenge for me at times. I'm curious about that.
Yes and no. And the reason I say that is because, yes, because that was just my world for so long. And no, because, for me, it's all about the people, right? You got to have the right people in the right place doing the right thing every time. And so I had built an organization of people that were professionals, that were experts in their field. They knew what they knew without a shadow of a doubt, and they knew how to execute. And they were, 1,000% focused on our ambassadors and customers. So it was a kind of a yes and no. It's like, that's your baby, you don't want to let go, but we got some amazing people, so you got to let them shine.
You do have a great team there. I know many of them there and some of the best in the industry. Absolutely. So you mentioned Tarl and Alec, and I'm curious with still having them kind of close and there and events and things like that. I know that that's a huge advantage, especially to a first time CEO, and that it also has a huge impact on the culture. Can you talk about that kind of relationship and that dynamic of still kind of having founder involvement, but also having the reins to kind of run and change and evolve the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. With Alec Clark, he and I were friends, prior to the change, but this has actually brought us closer together. Alec's still here 4 days a week, still offices here. He still goes out into the field. He's part of our C-suite, and it's just so refreshing to have his history and experience and his passion still involved in the business. And we've become really close friends. I mean, his wife and my wife are friends. We actually go to each other's house on the weekend for dinner. It's just been a wonderful relationship. And with Tarl moving to the chairman spot, Tarl is very supportive. He's not in the day-to-day, but we communicate, constantly. And he's also another great sounding board, when it's you're not quite sure if the decision you're making is the right for the organization just because you don't have some of the historical context, and to be able to call him and just work through those things or brainstorm ideas with him. Or he and Alec will get together once a quarter and kind of go through like a quarterly business review, the normal stuff. But we also try to innovate and figure out what's the next thing for Plexus? What's the next thing that we can do to innovate in our industry? So it's just been a wonderful relationship between the three of us.
I'm curious, looking back over the last couple of years with that transition, again, it's definitely drinking from the fire hose. It's not an easy transition. What advice would you give to any first time CEOs?
Don't ever underestimate the relationship piece, right? I think that not only with your staff, but definitely out in the field, right? They are the lifeblood of our business, period. And I carry a great weight on my shoulders in several different ways because of carrying on the legacy of what Tarl and Alex started and where we're going and our vision that we have for the organization, but also the hundreds of thousands of lives that depend on what we do day to day here at corporate and the decisions that we make, right? We have a lot of people out in the field where they're looking to us to make the right call, make the right decisions in order to build this legacy generational business. So
I'm curious, with that kind of emphasis on the relationships, both internally and externally, how do you kind of balance your time with that, with time with the field, with the leaders at events versus kind of focus on the day-to-day, making sure the trains are running on time internally?
in the beginning, it was a really, really tough balance, right? Because again, trying to seek to understand what's going on in the organization inside the four walls, but then also relationship build outside the four walls. And, now we have some just amazing C-suite members in place that I can fully rely on, from the day-to-day standpoint. So I try to spend most of my time with our leaders in the field and at events and those types of things. I think it's just so important for the field to have that connection with corporate. Obviously, they've got connection with our sales folks and some of our marketing folks, but with all the things that are going on in this world, I feel like we've got a connection crisis going on. And so the more time I can spend with our leaders, whether that's just a phone call, whether that's a Zoom check-in, whether that's I'm going out to a local event or a corporate event, those are the areas that I right now are focusing on.
So I want to shift into learning a little bit more about Plexus today. So been an amazing company, lots of growth. It's been one of the companies that we've all looked to over the years for inspiration, been a champion, of the industry for so long. I'm curious, as the last several years have had your perspective there, what do you feel have been some of the keys to the long-term success at Plexus?
Just the culture of the organization. And I know everybody says that, we're big believers in if you're blessed, be a blessing. Alec Clark's, kind of coined that. And we have an internal philanthropy arm in which we do so many amazing things to give back to our local community. Out in our ambassadors' communities, we've started going out and partnering with our ambassadors to go out to some of their local food banks and take time out there, to pack or give service, and then also, give a monetary donation. But that internal group also curates opportunities for all of our employees here in the building to actually go out and serve in our local community. And like, we partner with Phoenix Children's Hospital, we partner with St. Mary's Food Bank. We host a yearly, we call it a PCC walk, which is in conjunction with the Phoenix Children's Hospital. And we give our employees, 16 hours of paid volunteer time on top of all their, sick time, vacation time, and all that, to actually just go out and give back in the community. And that could be, again, serving at one of the local food banks. It could be going into their school of one of their kids and volunteering in the classroom as an aide for a day, just all kinds of different things. And so, that culture bleeds out to our field as well. And we call it our one Plexus culture. Because we're all in it together. Also out in the field, I've never seen where, we'll have ambassadors post on social media on one of our brand pages where they'll ask a question for help, right? They'll be like, hey, have you run into this before? Or, hey, does anybody have this type of training here? Or, hey, does anybody use this product for X? And it doesn't matter if you're upline, downline, sideline, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody chimes in and says, hey, have you tried this? Hey, here's a resource over here. It usually it's not like that. It's kind of fend for yourself type of deal. And again, that breeds our one Plexus culture. It is a lot of fun to operate in that type of culture.
Yeah, I have heard that from so many people at all levels of the organization there, about the culture there. And it's rare to find a company, that has that and is able to sustain it long term. But I know that that's been one of the keys for sure, for the long term success. You came in, as you mentioned, listening, understanding, even when you first came into the C-suite. And there's several years, 15 or so years of an amazing heritage there. I'm curious, as a new CEO, again, within the last 2 years, how do you balance kind of honoring the legacy and the foundation that's been built there, but also looking to the future and innovating and helping to move the organization forward?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? Again, the culture and just the whole philosophy that Tarl and Alec have of doing network marketing the way it could be done, should be done, but rarely ever is. We hold true to that, and we're never going to let that go. Again, with an organization that has kind of had this muscle memory for quite some time, and people that have been in the organization for quite some time, we're going to keep that, but at the same time, we have to push our teams to get outside their comfort zone, to uncover every stone when it comes to product innovation, looking across the organization at certain things that may be frictional for our ambassadors or our customers that may have been put in place in a particular season. Today, it doesn't make any sense. And the other thing is really pushing everybody in the building to be an ambassador champion. It was interesting. I had my first management offsite. We do one every quarter. And I asked everybody in the room, and these are all manager and above, to stand up if this was your first time inside of direct sales or network marketing. And I was a little bit shocked that we had about 80% of the people stand up. Not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, if you don't understand your mission and who you're serving and the why behind that, then you don't always make the best decisions sitting in the seat of influence that you may have, right? The other thing, I went through the entire organization and I wanted everybody to understand that it doesn't matter what role you have in the organization, right? What you do on a day-to-day basis, either positively or negatively, affects our ambassador and customer. And I gave everybody permission to put their hand up and go, I don't know how what I do on a day-to-day basis affects our ambassador or customer. And so, went on a mission to resolve that. I would tell people, look at the guy cleaning the toilets. I can tell you if he does a good job or bad job, how that's going to affect our ambassador or customer. But, it's the reality. And so, in order to breed innovation, in order to breed change, you got to get buy-in from the organization as to why we're doing it, who we serve, and where we're going and the why. So It's been an interesting balance. The accountability pieces come in quite a bit. Accountability isn't, hey, why'd you do that wrong? It's, hey, let's at least first step have a conversation, right? What did we not give you? Did we not give you a tool, a resource? Was there a prerequisite somewhere that from another department that caused you to miss a deadline or execute poorly or cause this friction for our ambassadors? It starts with us, right? That's where leadership comes in. And you have to have these conversations. And, because of the legacy culture that we had, and, I've had these conversations with Tarl and Alex, so this isn't anything that I wouldn't say with them sitting right here with us, right? People just had a hard time with this accountability piece. And so we worked through that, which was good. And so now we're all running in the same direction.
For sure. I think that is such an important philosophy and approach, helping everybody to understand, at every spot in the organization, the impact that they do have. I think that's how great brands and great cultures are created. I oftentimes kind of tell the story of, who has more impact on a customer or distributor, the voice at the end of the phone, a distributor, customer support, or the CFO. And, oftentimes the CFO might have more responsibility, a little more weight on their shoulders, but that personal interaction that somebody has, even a note that goes in, an order or a shipment that goes out, can make a huge difference. Every touch point's an opportunity to either kind of build a culture and a brand, or, as you say, kind of negatively impact it. And I think that's so important for the whole organization to understand. So I'm curious too, obviously there's been a lot of change from a technology standpoint, rise of e-commerce, Amazon, social. What is working for Plexus from a technology and tool standpoint?
We right now, and I'm just super transparent, that's just who I am. We're actually we're in the throes of a digital transformation, right? We've been behind when it comes to innovating on that side of the business and really giving our ambassadors the tools and digital technology to go out and actually do what they do best. Back in the day, a lot of companies, and I've been part of other companies that had this philosophy as well of, we have to own everything. We have to custom develop everything. And we did that here. And unfortunately, it handcuffed pretty much everywhere in the business. And so right now, like I said, we've been working on this transformation, and we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we're super excited by it. And our ambassadors are as well. We have to give them the best experience possible. Like you said, obviously prior to the pandemic, these things were really important. The pandemic just absolutely accelerated that to no end. And it's, we're not just competing against other direct sales companies, right? You're competing with the Amazons of the world. You're competing with all these other companies, right? And nowadays, if it's not easy to do business with you, or you can't meet people where they're at or where they want to be met, or talk to the way they want to be talked to, you're going to have a really, really hard time, navigating in this new world. And so we're in the middle of the throes of that transformation now.
If you missed any part of the Spring DSU event or just want to revisit some of the speakers and topics, replays are accessible in the DSU On-Demand Library. The library is an exclusive resource for DSN supporter companies, one of many benefits designed to help keep you and your teams engaged, informed, and one step ahead. If you work at a supporter company, simply log in using your unique company code to access this event's content, plus over 250 presentations from previous educational events. If you are interested in becoming a DSN supporter, you can contact us at support@directselling.news.com. We also invite you to join us at the Fall DSU event happening September 23rd through 25th at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. Registration is free. Visit dsnevents.com today.
I know another kind of big philosophy of yours, especially post-pandemic, is this idea of back to basics. And I'd love for you to expound a little bit on what you mean from kind of a strategic perspective, from an events perspective, that personal one-on-one perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So, during that first 4 to 6 months of just kind of, evaluating and seeking to understand, there were just so many things that, as an organization evolves, you kind of morph away or navigate away from the things that made you really successful. Right now, obviously, we have to change, we have to innovate, we do all those things, but there's some things that are just basic, right? And the companies that do those basic things over and over and over again and do them really well are the ones that are going to win in the long run, especially in this environment, right? I'll give you a simple example, okay? And this may sound really out there, but it really, again, it was something that was written in a policy back in the day because of a situation that was going on in a particular season. But I got in and all of a sudden I started hearing from some of these leaders, and this was a frictional point where someone had bought, we call them welcome packs, right? Combos, whatever, introductory pack. And someone would buy that. And, some of those packs, we pride ourselves in being kind of a lower entry, right? We don't have the $500,000 packs or anything like that. But, there'd constantly be situations where, someone would come into the business, they would buy one of these packs. And this is real life, right, Wayne? So they go home and the spouse is like, what did you do? Like, we can't afford this stuff. And so, they have this conversation. They're like, okay, well, I really want to keep a couple of these products because, from my understanding that this is really going to help me. And so you call customer service, and all of a sudden the customer service would be like, well, that's great, but you got to return the whole thing and we have to cancel your account and you have to wait 6 months. I'm like, say that again? Like that, literally, those types of things were happening, right? And it's just the basics, right? Basics of customer service, the basics of, when we're packing an order and that shows up on the doorstep of one of my ambassadors or customers, I want them to have this experience, right? The Plexus experience, where before we had these weird packaging containers and we would just shove pack slips down in the bottom of the thing and it would get delivered and you'd open it up and it'd be all jumbled all over the place and, this crinkled up packing slip. And I'm like, the basics, like these are the things that if we're going to win, right? And we're going to build a legacy brand, these are the things you have to be really, really good at. And so, we went on a journey and we're getting there. On the field side, we've just, since the pandemic, we've got this connection crisis going on. And I'm not gonna peanut butter spread this and say across all the different companies. I'm gonna only speak to Plexus, right? Where, the pandemic, it is what it is. We all want to forget it at some point, but we were all forced to this Zoom box. Right. And it worked. It worked for the time because there was no other alternative. Right. And obviously with health and wellness and, people getting furloughed and the business opportunity there, most companies grew at the pandemic. And so we come out of the pandemic and, all of a sudden we find ourselves in this weird economic and political environment. And, those people that came in, the retention wasn't there, right? Because they didn't onboard the way that we would normally onboard new folks, or in a particular quarter, have them come to an event, actually be a part of the community, understand what the company is all about. So all is what you see from a digital standpoint, right? And so, we're finding right now that our field leaders and ambassadors that are winning, yes, they're using social media. Yes, they're using Zoom, but they're getting together in person, right? I have 9-year, 10-year ambassadors that all of a sudden shifted the dynamic and have gone diamond. I've got so far this year, I have more jewel rank advancements in our top tiers in the first half of the year than we did all of 2022 and 23 combined. And it really is, at least for us, getting back to basics where we're actually getting out in the field. We're with our people. We're training our people. Not necessarily opportunity meetings, but I think just the fact that we've lost the connection. People are craving that connection, and we're seeing the activity from that, and seeing the activity from actually going out and being in the field with our people. And those were kind of the basics back in the day, right? And we've all kind of shifted away from that because the Zoom box is easy, but there's nothing better than sitting across the table eyeball to eyeball with somebody and having a conversation, because that's really what makes our community special as well here at Plexus. So
I agree. That is one of our superpowers and has been for more than 100 years. And the digital's great. It's a great tool in the toolbox. But to your point earlier, it's all about relationships, and long-term relationships are going to be created one-on-one and face-to-face, those that really last. So I love that you're seeing the results of that effort. So obviously, it's no secret that this is a very dynamic, even a pivotal time for all of us in direct selling. I know kind of what each of us do individually and collectively is, for the next 5 years is going to determine, our relevancy for the next 20. It's a very disruptive time. And I know that this is something that you think a lot about, that informs a lot of your strategy. I'm curious, what are some of these key trends or changes that you're seeing that are impacting, positively or negatively, not only Plexus, but the channel as a whole?
yeah, obviously, there's no secret there. We've just kind of what's going on out in the environment now, and the industry as a whole, trying to figure out, well, what's next and where do we go? Is it, there was a time period there where it was like, we should get into affiliate marketing and we should maybe do a hybrid. I mean, we should do this and do that. And I think some have seen some success. I don't know that there's been wild success with that. I think that the way that the world is evolving from just people have a hard time trusting people at this point, right? And again, I won't peanut butter spread anything. I could just speak from my experience and the conversations I've had with our leaders and our the rest of our field and our employees. But with what's going on out there in the media, and I'm not going to get into politics and all the type of stuff, but we have a hard time trusting. Like, I don't believe what I see on the news. I don't believe everything that I read, right? The stuff that I see on social media. And that's why the authentic content works so well on social media, right? And but the challenge is the social media has evolved so much. And truth be told, I wasn't a big social media guy. I had to go and educate myself and get in front of some experts who do this stuff for Disney, Nickelodeon, General Mills, some pretty big companies, and really understanding that the way the algorithms continue to change and how content is served up and how, everything's, obviously monetized now. Like, to be somebody on social media that can get all the views and the content, like, that's a full-time job. Like, somebody's sitting there curating content that's all these things. And so, I think Plexus, back in the day, it was really saw some of the first success because of when social media was really starting to take shape before it was really monetized. And so, some of the challenges we've got is, okay, well, how do we navigate that? How do we train? Do we try and, get people back to the basics, so to speak? Because I have a lot of my leaders that are, been in the business for a really long time, and they're like, I can't track anybody anymore on social media. Well, it's because the things change so much. And I mean, it comes down to the light, the timing, what's on trend, like all the things, as opposed to, well, I'm gonna post my pink drink on social media and everybody and their brother's gonna want to know what that is, right? So trying to figure that out. I think that this gig economy has been real interesting to try to navigate as well. And for our type of companies to try to innovate to where, we're doing daily pay, right? Those types of things. And it's like, how do we continue to innovate and attract, that younger generation? And so, yeah, it's a challenge for sure every single day.
Absolutely. And in addition to daily pay, I know that's, one of the innovations and changes to meet the, ever-changing demands of today's distributors. How else are distributors different today than they were 5 years ago when you first came? How are kind of the drivers for them or the motivators different? And how are you evolving as an organization to meet those needs?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? You know, I may have a hard time answering that one for the fact that, again, 5 years ago when I came in, I wasn't field facing and wasn't in a lot of those areas. But I can say this, that for whatever reason, we again, have challenges with our distributors, just really trying to understand how to talk to people different, right? The challenges that we've got with a lot of the legacy folks, the people who've been around a long time, and the fact that, they want to post the six-figure income, they want to, all the things that we all know in our industry is not good for, the obvious reasons. And, working with, the Heather Chastains and the Jason Dorseys of the world, and really using their data and understanding of, how to talk to people. Like, our people are having a really hard time shifting through that. And so we're slowly fighting that battle. And I think people are finally starting to realize that, okay, I need to talk different. Like, the world is different, right? Again, we go back to that whole thing of people don't trust. Like, if you're going to cast a wider net, you want to talk about six-figure, hey, I've got this huge six-figure income. And oh, by the way, well, the FTC don't like that. But number two, most of the people that are looking at that going, either I can't do that or that's a scam, right? As opposed to, hey, if I can make $300, $500 extra in the month to help, supplement my income, or help pay my mortgage, or help put my kids through gymnastics, or those types of things. The ones that have started to shift are seeing a difference. And so, but it's just been hard. It's just been muscle memory, right?
Absolutely. And it's interesting that this, crisis of trust should be something that should play into some of our advantages, to be something that we can do better than other organizations. As trust in institutions and companies begin to wane, people are looking to peers, to friends, to family for products and services and advice. And that is something that we do so well. And hopefully we're able to turn that, into, some tailwinds for us going forward. So international operations, obviously you've spent so much time in the international market and have this great global perspective. As you look at direct selling in the US and then internationally, are they changing in the same way? Are there greater differences? Are we as direct selling companies going to need to kind of segment more, where it might be more traditional network marketing in one market and a little more, customer focus, or I don't even want to say affiliate. So I'm going to take that back a little bit, but
Yeah, okay.
are we going to have to segment by market a little more than we have in the past, where we were just kind of speaking with one megaphone?
Yeah, I would definitely say yes, right? That landscape changes constantly around the world. I mean, obviously you've got some markets like the Asian markets that are just, they're business focused, they're rolling, and some are product. And I think that, again, we need to, as an industry, and instead of just, like you said, that one voice megaphone, is to really tailor to the culture of that particular market, right? And they're all different. And what's also challenging is, with all the, just from a business operations standpoint, all the fluctuation and the currencies, and, depending on what's going on in the political realm, all the, the tit for tat on the duty rates, and, tariffs. And it's an interesting thing to navigate. Each market is different. I don't think that that's really changed, to be honest with you, Wayne. I think that the generations definitely are obviously changed. And I think we need to understand how we're going to meet people where they're at, whether that's here in the US or in Japan or in Thailand or in El Salvador or Mexico, or any of these markets. Is, that localization piece is really, really important.
Yeah, I love the meeting people where they're at. That is such an important aspect to all of our businesses. I'm curious too, how you've been able to keep all the markets aligned around this kind of common goal and strategy and culture. Again, more markets is more complexity. And I'm curious what you've done successfully to keep everybody kind of marching to the same beat.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question, because we struggled with it for quite some time. Whether that was, product launches, promotions and incentives, just a myriad of different things. And this, I'm not going to share anything that's probably earth shattering, but, really what we did is we spun up what I call the GST. We call it the Global Support Team. And there's a core group of folks from each core areas of the business that we sit down every single month and do these reviews with all of our international markets. And we don't do them independently. We do them all together, because a lot of times there's synergies between certain markets, obviously the nuances and different, laws to if we're running certain promotions or whatever. It's really just being deliberate about including our international markets in all of our forward-thinking planning, strategic planning, and vision for the company, where they were all just kind of, and I hate using this terminology, but I've been in the market dealing with it myself, right, as kind of the redheaded stepchild. It's like, well, we didn't know about this. Why are you doing this? And guess what? I've got people here in my country that actually have people there in the US and vice versa. And it's like all the different things that come up. And so we've just been very deliberate about it. Also, just, really campaigning in the building about if we're going to be a global company, then we're going to act like a global company, right? Even dumb things of, hey, look at Australia's on a weird time zone. It is what it is. You can't have meetings at 10 o'clock in the morning here in the US. I'm sorry, we got to have a meeting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon to accommodate our markets, but we can't expect those market leaders to grow and tell them to go grow the market, and then we kind of just turn our back on it, right? So it's been interesting. It's been a challenge, but I think we're I think we're in a groove now. So it's been interesting. Let's just say that.
No, that's great. It's definitely a lot to keep your arms around for sure. So I know that you are also a huge champion for direct selling as a whole, for the channel as a whole. And you've talked about the importance of us individually and collectively about being guardians and protectors of the industry, of the channel. Can you share some thoughts on that?
It's one of those things. And sometimes, the field's emotional. Our field definitely is. And when that whole Rodan and Fields thing happened, and you've got the beauty counter and then Saint and all these different things, and there's reasons for that. But if we're getting into the business of direct sales, like, know what we're getting into and know what we're doing long term with it, and supporting it and loving it and embracing it, even though it's challenging. The industry goes through seasons, and this is just one interesting season that we probably have never seen before, and we're all trying to navigate through it. But the amount of lives that are involved in this, and families, and just all the things, that's a big deal. Like I said earlier, it's a big weight on your shoulders. And so we really need to continue to rally and help people understand and educate that this industry is very special. It is ever changing, but I've been a part of companies personally that were private equity backed, and all of a sudden, chairman came in one day at a board meeting, and he basically said, "I don't like distributors, and I think they complain too much, and they're overpaid, and we're just going to go direct to consumer." And all of our jaws just like hit the floor. To go through something like that, I mean, I can't imagine being a distributor going through something like that with all the relationships and families and personal reputations that have been on the line, and really devoting everything you do to that company and building a business, to have that rug pulled out from under you. But I have had that from a corporate standpoint, and it's devastating. It's just, that's the only way I could describe that. And so know what we're doing, know why we're doing it, be deliberate about it, love it, embrace it, and just, that's all I could say about that, Wayne. It's
Yeah, no,
a tough one.
I appreciate it. That is beautiful, challenging and beautiful. I hope we all have that same approach and the same love for the channel. I know that we all understand the impact that we have on millions of families and millions of lives around the world. So we need to keep standing up for direct selling and being a champion. I'm going to end with this. You've been very generous with your time. So as you look forward for direct selling over the next 5 years, what excites you the most?
What excites me the most? I think just the opportunity for us to innovate in our channel and figure out how we're going to continue to move the needle forward, how we're going to continue to change people's lives. I mean, fundamentally, how many people get to say that they do that on a day-to-day basis? Like, really change someone's life, whether that's from a health standpoint, a financial standpoint, maybe somebody who just was looking for community, place of belonging, like all those different types of things. And so I always love the challenge. And I love what Stuart's done over the years, and really bringing all of our companies together to really, figure out how we continue to move forward in this channel and innovate and best practices, and trends that are out, like all the things. So I'm excited. Again, it's not an easy thing to navigate for our industry right now, but I'm just excited that we could continue to love what we do and do what we do. And I love the fact that, I can pick up the phone and call another CEO at another company and check in and see how things are going and share some best practices and help our industry grow together. We're all in it together.
Love it. The perfect idea to end on. Gene, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for sharing all your insights. It's a lot for us to think about, some great reminders about us coming together to move the whole channel forward. I know you've been a champion for the entire channel, not just the companies you've worked for. And please give our best to Tarl, Alec, and everybody else back at the office.
Absolutely, Wayne. Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a moment to subscribe and give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid insights and interviews for direct selling corporate executives. And don't forget to register for the Fall DSU at dsnevents.com. Secure your spot now. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.